Hello, Internet. It's time to read the Bible. I got a new hat, so I thought I'd show it off. Uh, Nothing fancy, just a Walmart hat, Panama Jack brand. Not sponsored. Uh, anyway, we're going to read May 23rd's verse, and then I'll probably just go ahead and do May 24th and immediately after this. So, seeing a lot of this shirt and this hat. Alright, so 2 Samuel chapter 2, verses 12 to chapter 3, verse 39. I am busy. Discord. Anyway, um, I guess in honor of the hat, we'll go with an Aussie accent, or my best imitation thereof. One day, General Abner led some of Ishbosheth's troops to Gibeon from Mahanaim, and the General Joab, son of Zeruiah, led David's troops out to meet him. They met at the pool of Gibeon, where they sat facing each other on opposite sides of the pool. Then Abner suggested to Joab, "Let's watch some sword play between our young men." Joab agreed, so 12 men were chosen from each side to fight in mortal combat. Each one grabbed his opponent by the hair and thrust his sword into the other side so that all of them died. The place has been known ever since as Swordfield. That seems like an egregious waste of men, but whatever. The two armies then began to fight each other, and by the end of the day, Abner and his men of Israel had been defeated by Joab and the forces of David. Joab's brothers, Abishai and Asahel, were also in the battle. Asahel could run like a deer and been chasing Abner. He wouldn't stop for anything, but kept on, single-minded, after Abner alone. When Abner looked behind and saw him coming, he called out to him, "Is that you, Asahel?" "Yes," he called back, "it is." "Go out to someone else," Abner warned, but Asahel refused and kept on coming. Again Abner shouted to him, "Get away from me. I could never face your brother Joab if I have to kill you." But he refused to turn away, so Abner pierced him through the belly with the butt end of his spear. He went right through his body and came out his back. He stumbled to the ground and died there. And everyone stopped when they came to the place where he lay. Now Joab and Abishai set out after Abner. The sun was just going down as they arrived at Amahil near Gia, along the road into the Gibeon desert. Abner's troops from the tribe of Benjamin regrouped there at the top of the hill, and Abner shouted down to Joab, "Must our swords continue to kill each other forever? How long will it be before you call off your people from chasing their brothers?" Joab shouted back, "I swear by God that even if you hadn't spoken, we would all have gone home tomorrow morning." Then he blew his trumpet, and his men stopped chasing the troops of Israel. At night, Abner and his men retreated across the Jordan Valley, crossed the river, and traveled all the next morning until they arrived at Mahanaim. Joab and his men, who were with him, returned home too, and when he counted his casualties, he learned that only 19 men were missing, in addition to Asahel. But 360 of Abner's men, all from the tribe of Benjamin, were dead. I'm not particularly fond of the tribe of Benjamin, so I'm not that broken up about that. um, Joab and his men took Asahel's body to Bethlehem and buried him beside his father. Then they traveled all night and reached Hebron at daybreak. That was the beginning of a long war between the followers of Saul and of David. David's position now became stronger and stronger, while Saul's dynasty became weaker and weaker. Several sons were born to David while he was at Hebron. The oldest was Amnon, born to his wife Ahinoam. His second son, Chileab, was born to Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. The third was Absalom, born to Maacah, the daughter of King Talmai of Geshur. And the fourth was Adonijah, who was born to Haggith. Then Shephatiah was born to Abital, and Ithream was born to Eglah. A lot of kids. Let's just say Solomon gets it from somewhere. Moving on. As the war went on, Abner became a very powerful political leader among the followers of Saul. He took advantage of his position by sleeping with one of Saul's concubines, a girl named Rizpah. But when Ishbosheth accused Abner of this, Abner was furious. "Am I a Judean dog to be kicked around like this?" he said. "After all I've done for you and your father, by not betraying you to David, is this my reward? To find fault with me about some woman? May God curse me if I don't do everything I can to take away the entire kingdom from you, all the way from Dan to Beersheba, and give it to David, just as the Lord predicted." Ishbosheth made no reply, for he was afraid of Abner. Then Abner sent messages to David to discuss a deal, to surrender the kingdom of Israel to him in exchange for becoming commander-in-chief for the combined armies of Israel and Judah. "All right," David replied, "but I will not negotiate with you unless you bring me my wife, Michal, Saul's daughter." David then sent this message to Ishbosheth: "Give me back my wife, Michal, for I bought her with the lives of 100 Philistines." So Ishbosheth took her away from her husband Palti. He followed along behind her as far as Bahurim, weeping as he went. Then Abner told him, "Go on home now." So he returned. Yeah, I feel kind of bad for the guy. I mean, he didn't take Michal from David. Saul did it. Yeah, getting all these marital arrangements is always kind of messy in the Bible. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe anywhere in the Bible it specifically says you're not supposed to have more than one wife. It's not considered a sin. But contextual evidence, every single time there's more than one wife, it goes badly for the people involved. So I don't, it's not a sin, but it's not wise. And David just keeps piling on more unwise decisions. It's my take. That's my 2 cents anyway. Anyway, like I said, I felt bad for Michal as well, being passed around and whatnot, because it did say she fell in love with David. And then he's gone off and had all these other wives and had all these other kids, while she may have had another life for herself with this guy by now. It's messy. It's a messy story. It's easy to forget all this because David gets all his big hurrahs from killing Goliath and being a good king and salt and stuff. It was a messy. Yes, he was after God's own heart, but that doesn't mean he was. That doesn't mean he was the smartest boy in the. What's that? What's that old phrase? The sharpest tool in the shed. Anyway, where was I? Meanwhile, Abner consulted with the leaders of Israel and reminded them that for a long time they had wanted David as their king. "Now is the time," he told them, "for the Lord has said, it is David by whom I will save my people from the Philistines and from all the other enemies." Abner also talked to the leaders of the tribe of Benjamin. Then he went to Hebron and reported to David his progress with the people of Israel and Benjamin. 20 men accompanied him, and David entertained them with a feast. As Abner left, he promised David, "When I get back, I will call a convention of all the people of Israel, and they will elect you as their king, as you've so long desired." So David let Abner return to safety. But just after Abner left, Joab and some of David's troops returned from a raid, bringing much loot with them. When Joab was told that Abner had just been there visiting the king and had been sent away in peace, he rushed to the king demanding, "What have you done? What do you mean by letting him get away? You know perfectly well that he came to spy on us, and that he plans to return and attack us." Then Joab sent messengers to catch up with Abner and tell him to come back. They found him at the well in Sirah, and he returned with them. But David knew nothing about it. When Abner arrived at Hebron, Joab took him aside at the city gate as if to speak with him privately. But then he pulled out a dagger and killed him. in revenge for the death of his brother Asahel. When David heard about it, he declared, I vow by the Lord that I and my people are innocent of this crime against Abner. Joab and his family are the guilty ones. May each of his children be victims of cancer, or be lepers, or be sterile, or die of starvation, or be killed by the sword. You'd think you'd narrow it down a bit, but you wanted a wider range of miseries for the family. Anyway, so Joab and his brother Abishai killed Abner because of the death of their brother Asahel at the Battle of Gibeon. Then David said to Joab and to all those who were with him, Go into deep mourning for Abner. And King David accompanied the bier to the cemetery. I don't know what a bier is. Not B-E-E-R. B-I-E-R. I don't know what that word means. If you do, write in the comments. I'm curious. If not, we'll be ignorant together. Because I'm not looking it up. Anyway, they buried Abner at Hebron, and the king and all the people wept at the graveside. Should Abner have died like a fool? The king lamented. Your hands were not bound, your feet were not tied, you were murdered, the victim of a wicked plot. And all the people wept again for him. David had refused to eat anything the day of the funeral, and now everyone begged for him to take a bite of supper. But David vowed that he would eat nothing until sundown. This pleased his people, just as everything else he did pleased them. Thus the whole nation, both Judah and Israel, understood from David's actions that he was in no way responsible for Abner's death. And David said to his people, A great leader and a great man has fallen today in Israel. And even though I am God's chosen king, I can do nothing with these two sons of Zeruiah. May the Lord repay wicked men for their wicked deeds. The old soap opera and all that, I guess war drama. It's not a lot different. Not as much difference between those two as I'd like. Anyway, it's interesting reading, though. I'll give you that. Yeah, David's life was very interesting. Moving on. I know Samuel gets all the billing, but remember all them kids' names. Most of them are going to come up again. That one kid with the hair. It's sad. Anyway, let's not spoil too much if you haven't read about it. Let's go into John chapter 13, verse 1 through 30. So, Jesus knew on the evening of Passover day that it would be his last night on earth before returning to his Father. During the supper, the devil had already suggested to Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, that this was the night to carry out his plan to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God, and how he loved his disciples. So he got up from the supper table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel round his loins, poured water into a basin, and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel he had round him. When he came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, Master, you shouldn't be washing our feet like this. Jesus replied, You don't understand now why I'm doing it. Someday you will. No, Peter protested, you shall never wash my feet. But if I don't, you can't be my partner, Jesus replied. Simon Peter exclaimed, Then wash my hands and head as well, not just my feet. Jesus replied, One who has bathed all over needs only to have his feet washed to be entirely clean. Now you are clean. But that isn't true of everyone here. Jesus, for Jesus knew who would betray him. That is what he meant when he said, Not all of you are clean. After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, Do you understand what I was doing? You call me Master and Lord, and you do well to say it, for it is true. And since I, the Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. How true it is that the servant is not greater than his master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends him. You know these things. Now do them. That is the path of blessing. I am not saying these things to all of you. I know so well each one of you I chose. The scripture declares, one who eats supper with me will betray me. And this will soon come true. I tell you this now so that when it happens you will believe on me. Truly anyone welcoming my messengers is welcoming me. And to welcome me is to welcome the Father who sent me. Now Jesus was in great anguish of spirit and exclaimed, Yes, it is true. One of you will betray me. The disciples looked at each other, wondering whom he could mean. Since I was sitting next to Jesus at the table, being his closest friend, Simon Peter motioned to me to ask him who it was who would do this terrible deed. I'm aware of John's self-glaze at the tomb. I forgot about this one. I forgot about him referring to himself as Jesus' best friend. That's amazing. Because that was not mentioned in either of the three other Gospels. John made note. I'm his best friend. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get sidetracked like that, but that tickled me just a little bit, just a little bit in a little niblets. Anyway, all right. So Simon Peter motioned to me and asked him who it was who would do this terrible deed. So I turned and asked him, Lord, who is it? He told me, it is the one I honor by giving the bread dipped in sauce. And when he had dipped it, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. As soon as Judas had eaten it, Satan entered into him. Then Jesus told him, Hurry, good now. None of the others at the table knew what Jesus meant. Some thought that since Judas was their treasurer, Jesus was telling him to go and pay for the food or to give some money to the poor. Jesus left at once, going out into the night. And now I tear the page a little bit. Oh well, it didn't. It's still legible. It's a tiny tear, rather. Anyway, Psalms chapter 119, verses 1 through 16. Happy are all who perfectly follow the laws of God. Happy are all who search for God and always do his will. Sorry, had a burp wanting to come up. Anyway, all who do his will, rejecting compromise with evil and walking only in his paths. So you don't compromise with evil. You've given us your laws to obey. Oh, how I want to follow them consistently. Then I will not be disgraced, for I will have a clean record. After you've corrected me, I will thank you by living as I should. I will obey. Oh, don't forsake me, and let me slip back into sin again. How can a young man stay pure? By reading your word and following its rules. I've tried my best to find you. Don't let me wander off from your instructions. I've thought much about your words and stored them in my heart, so that they would hold me back from sin. Blessed Lord, teach me your rules. I have recited your laws and rejoiced in them more than riches. I will meditate upon them and give them my full respect. I will delight in them and not forget them. Finally, we have Proverbs chapter 15, verses 29 and 30. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. Pleasant sights and good reports give happiness and health. Well, that's just nice, isn't it? But that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed me being kept in Australia for a bit. And as always, God bless you.